He crawled his way up from a 10 million peso negative net worth to more than 3 billion pesos before he turned 37. But this is not your usual rags to riches story. Antonio Tiu, President and CEO of Agri Nurture Inc., combined the power of entrepreneurship and the equities market to bring him wealth. Along the way, he tries to make sure every move uplifts the lives of poor farmers. Today, we talk about building and spreading wealth. I'm Edric Mendoza, and you're watching On the Money. We're here with Antonio Tiu, President and CEO of Agri Nurture Inc., and many other companies besides. Hi, Tony.
Hi.
So great story we're about to extract from you, many of the learnings. So I understand that this started for you about college when your father passed away, and because of that, you inherited about 10 million pesos in debt.
Yeah.
Was that a motivation for you to become who you are now?
Yes, actually, that's a really big challenge for me to work harder and try to excel.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So how did you now start moving from that point with the motivation that you had?
Well, first thing first is to find a job. So by destiny, I landed in the company owned by one of my friend, Taiwanese friend, Peter. And the job was to help him liquidate the company by selling the post-harvest facility. While we're trying to sell the inventory, the shareholders or the company realized that it's actually a very profitable venture. So we then decided, they decided to take me in as a shareholder, and we grew the company from then. We thought of the model to be the only bridge between the supply and demand. That's how we started pushing the produce of the farmers to the supermarket, to the export market.
I see. So you went direct now, from the produce to harvest, you went direct. Okay, that's fascinating. Let's talk about how, as you were building this business, it came to a point where you actually decided that, well, it's now time to publicly list ourselves.
Well, Philippines is an agri-nation. The only problem is we're an agri-nation trying not to be an agri-nation. So there are a lot of limitations other than limitation to the access to land. We have very minimal access to credit that will support agriculture, because people perceive agriculture as high risk. Because from the start, remember when we enter school, we're always taught to sing, planting rice is never fun.
Magtanim ay di biro. That's right.
So growing to a certain level, I have no other choice but to look for an alternative source of fun, which at that time, the best way is to go to the stock market and raise money.
Okay. How many years into the business and its evolution did you come up with the idea to now publicly list yourselves?
10 years.
10 years.
Yeah.
Okay. 10 years. And I understand you listed yourself not just in the PSE, but also in the Australian Stock Exchange.
Yes, because I graduated from Australia.
I see.
I have some network there. And at the same time, when I was planning to list my company in the Philippines, there was the Lehman Brothers crisis, which totally prevented myself to take it public through IPO.
Right.
So my only option is to list by way of introduction, which requires that I should be listed in 2 exchanges.
Would you say that this is a good strategy in wealth building as well, listing now your company?
Actually, it depends on the situation.
Okay, explain.
Yeah. So if you're really, there are always cost of money. Sometimes the cost of borrowing is cheaper than cost of raising equity. Sometimes there's no access to credit facility with the financial institution, then you have no other choice but to take whatever is available, and then you should consider taking your company public. But to be able to go public, you also have to achieve enough economies of scales in terms of the revenue, in terms of the cash flow generation. So it's always doing it at the right time with the right intention.
So how would you know if it's the right time? And how would you know if it's the right intention? I mean, those are very good principles.
Right intention is, of course, why are you going to the public to raise money? Because on my case, I have no other ways, no other arenas to raise money, so I have to go public to raise money in order
added capital,
to sustain the growth of the company. That's what I call right intention. But if your intention is to get public, so you can get more money from the public and live a luxurious life, then probably that's not the right intention.
Okay. Good to state that for the record. Okay.
And then right timing, I think there are a lot of situations. Right timing with the company, right timing in terms of the overall macro perspective, which is the stock market. For example, right now, the last few days has been a negative mood, but it's a correction. However, generally speaking, the market is still very positive. So if you want to list your company, of course, this is the best timing you can ever experience in the entire history
of the stock exchange.
Yes. And right timing for a company, of course, you have to look at whether is there really a necessity to raise money? Is your company already equipped with the right appropriate management team, the right level of revenue and profit? So there's so many things to consider.
Okay. You were saying right timing, no? Looking at the macro factors. But when you publicly listed, that was around the crash.
That's a crash.
08, 09. So how did that factor into your decision
Well,
back then?
that's not the right timing in terms of the macro perspective.
Yes, but for your needs.
For my needs, I have no choice.
I see.
Right?
Right.
At that time, banks are all closed because it's Lehman Brothers crisis.
So in a perfect world, obviously, you won't go after a crash. I mean, you will find times like this, no?
Actually, for me, I really believe that in every crisis, there's an opportunity.
Good perspective. Okay, so timing, you talked about intention. Any other factors for people to consider when they're thinking, hey, this might be a strategic move for me to help build wealth for my company?
Well, the key is really the human factor. I believe that life is predestined, and you just have to work hard, and you'll arrive at your destination. So the human factor is the most important factor in everything. Whether it's the right timing, you're in the perfect place. Without the right person, everything won't be realized.
Okay.
So it boils down to the person running the company.
Okay.
What is your intention, and where are you driving the company?
Sure. Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about how-tos. No? So you have the right intention. These are the right mindsets. Details in listing a company, maybe you can go to the ABCs of that.
There are two, right now the listing procedure is streamlined into two categories. One is the big board, which requires you to have 50 million net income for the last 3 years, like 400 million authorized capital stock with market cap of several billion pesos.
Okay.
That's for the big
Big
league.
board.
The other SME board requires you to have EBITDA of 15 million for the last 3 years.
15, 1-5.
1-5, yeah,
Last 3
and
years.
you have to have a sustainable business vision.
That's an annual net income, no? Or combined?
For the past 3 years.
Combined past 3 years.
Combined past 3 years, but the last year has to be positive.
Okay.
And these are the basic profit tests, revenue tests, market cap tests. The next is which way. You want to go public by IPO, meaning you issue new shares to raise money for the company. That's called IPO, initial public offering. Or you want to list by way of introduction. So that is basically through listing in dual exchange.
Which is what you opted for, no?
Yes.
Let's talk about the benefits. So now you've talked about the process. For your company, in your story, tell me, after you now publicly listed, how did it, percentage-wise, do you have figures of how it now grew?
Well, from the time we listed until today, I think we've grown ourselves more than 10 times, top line, bottom line wise. The most important thing is, once you're listed, you're now a public figure, yourself and
literally,
company. Literally, yes.
Yeah.
So you're exposed to all kinds of
scrutiny
and call it harassment.
Right.
It's part of the game, but on the good side, of course, becoming Mr. Transparent would also mean that the banks will be more comfortable to lend you money. The investors will be more comfortable to invest or within easier reach. And you'll be able to attract more competent people to join the company. So there are always
those are the advantages.
Yeah, pros and cons.
Right. Now let's take this wonderful story and go to the personal level now. tell me about your money philosophy. I hear you lead a very simple life.
Yes.
You've had that philosophy. Can you expound on that?
Well, I went through ups and downs in my life, although I'm just 37 today. But the challenge is during those times when you're down, you realize that there's a lot of things that you don't really need. Actually, less is actually more. But
Less is more. I agree.
less is more. And for example, we only need to eat 3 meals in a day. Anything excess that you eat, you have to exercise to get rid of it.
Good point.
Yeah, we only need to sleep 6 to 8 hours a day. If you sleep more than 10 hours, then you wake up actually even
Groggy
worse.
and sluggish.
So these are the simple things in life. I've tried to learn. There's nothing as trying to keep learning and improving every day. I've been a vegetarian.
Wow.
For 20 years.
Really? Okay.
I tried to live a simple life. So next time when I have to go down again,
Right.
There's no more shock.
Now, in terms of your investment philosophy, right, are you mainly focused on equities because you're still fairly young, or do you mix it up?
Well,
How do you? What is your investment strategy? Yeah.
Well, I think the attitudes towards investment change as a person wealth change and
Grows,
and a person's age change. When I have nothing, of course, 100%.
There's nothing to use, right?
100%, I can take the risk. My investment philosophy ever since has been toned down. So right now we prefer diversification.
Sure.
We prefer not to put all eggs in one basket.
Sure.
But for one idea that I can share is, if, for example, you want to place a time deposit with a bank, you can actually check the bank if it's listed. If it's listed, you can look at its PE ratio and its dividend yield. Sometimes the dividend yield of the bank is higher than the time deposit rate.
Right.
And there's an upside. So if, let's say the time deposit rate right now is 3%, technically, if you can play long term, the PE ratio that can justify the time deposit can go as high as 33 times. So these are different mindsets and different angles of looking at the passive investment.
Okay. All right. We're going to have more questions for you in a bit, Tony. In the meantime, we have to pause for a short break. Stay tuned. On the Money, we'll be right back.